So we're gonna start now.
Yeah, I'll shut up.
There's Robbie.
Mouse not working.
Cindy, do you want to mention the thing?
What thing?
The Microsoft app.
Okay. So, since I don't think anybody else is here coming or anything, so
Use word of mouth. But anyways.
So on Saturday I went to Desert Code Camp up in Phoenix, and it went to a workshop. And it was a game workshop. Well, it was actually a talk. But I asked the presenter to do a workshop for us in both GameMaker and HTML5. Are you guys interested in that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Super
cool.
yes.
So I was thinking probably next semester, since the semester is almost over.
Yeah,
So yeah, right before the game jam would be a super good time.
That would be a good thing.
Yeah. So
What game jam? We're having another game jam?
yeah.
Oh, next semester. Never mind.
Yeah. No, not this summer.
I was like,
What if-
really? Within the next 3 weeks?
That's not would be a good time.
Damn, I'm gonna have to get ready for that. I'm already running on like no sleep and 2 5-hour intervals.
Summer? Yeah, I know, right?
We should just say, come down to Tucson. Come down to Tucson.
We don't even have to come here. We could just do it online over like
Virtual game jam.
exactly
That's
virtual
not-
game.
That's not
Same
cool.
goes Make the same game, but in less time. Same goes straight into control.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Yes.
All right. Has anybody ever heard of Construct 2? Yes.
We did
No.
this morning.
All right. Well, I have a few things I'm just gonna go over. What Construct 2 is? It's a rapid prototyping, or you can actually use it for production. It's a visual scripting game maker. And obviously it's a multi-published platform. You can publish, it mostly is good at publishing to HTML5 using Canvas. That's what it defaults to if you're in the free version. But also the personal and professional versions can publish to everything listed here. All right. It makes things a lot more quick and easy, especially if you're a professional. It will basically speed up anything that you can do in programming. You should be able to do in theory in Construct 2. There are a few limitations. One thing being RPGs, which are very hard to do in Construct 2 because of some of the limitations of the way it works. It has a very powerful event system. And instead of complicated scripting or programming, complicated because a lot of you are programming, so I'm not. You know, you can define how the game works using blocks of if-then statements with visual helpers, choosing your objects and your outcomes. The behavior system is packaged. It's a bunch of packaged things that come in Construct 2. I'll actually just open it up real quick. Oh, it's on this one.
Before you close that, I have a question.
Yes.
Is that orange guy holding a man in a dress?
With a hook for an arm.
With a hook for an arm.
Is he a pun?
Cindy, that's not the most interesting part. The most interesting part is why is he grabbing a red block?
Why not?
I thought it was the car.
Does it represent,
Looked
does
pretty
it
cool.
represent the essence of something?
He's destroying communism.
Super meat.
Duh.
Well, he's doing a terrible job because North Korea and China. That is all.
It explains why the soldier is shooting
Why?
a red laser.
Why? I don't need 2 copies of this open.
Bless you.
There we go. So, the behavior, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. The behavior system works like this. Oh, well, hang on, it doesn't have it. Our player has a platform behavior. Construct 2 has a bunch of built-in behaviors, and you can also edit in your own behaviors using JavaScript. It is almost completely open. You can build all your own plugins and your own behaviors using JavaScript. And the SDK is available on their website. Sorry, I hate Windows 8. It keeps switching tabs on me.
I don't like Windows 8 either.
Construct 2 actually just got Steam greenlit, and it's been on there for probably close to a month now. It's one of the first software titles that got Steam greenlit. You can get it either on their website or through Steam, the free version and the paid versions. One thing I'd like to note right now is their paid versions are 40% off for starting today through a week from now. And yeah, exactly. Perfect timing.
Contact them?
The free edition does have some limitations that the other editions do not. The two other editions are essentially identical. The personal version and the professional version are both identical, except for the fact that the personal edition can be used for commercial work, but once you make 5,000 USD using it, they ask that you buy the professional edition. So basically, once you've made $5,000 using your games that you've made, then buy the professional edition. It's like $250 anyway, so I don't see why that would be a problem. What can Construct 2 do? Pretty much anything. I'm going to show an example real quick of a game made using Construct 2 that just won a Windows 8 competition. It was part of the Windows 8 app challenge things they were doing where they were giving you $100 to submit an app. But it's had over 250,000 downloads since then, and it's actually doing really, really well.
What's it called?
It's called Mortarmelon, and it's only for Windows 8 right now.
Not 7?
No, it's not out for anything other than Windows 8. Sorry, let me.
They don't even have a website.
Windows hate
Of course
this.
they don't have a website. You're supposed to go to this. If you have
Looks like they have a website.
They do have a website.
it. You just kind of.
I was trying to open up the actual game.
It just provides a link to the store. What's it called again?
It's called
Mortarmelon.
Mortarmelon.
Mortar.
Actually, I will just bring up their website.
M-O-R-T-A-R.
Oh, I thought it was Mortar.
That would that totally would
I
make
found
us
it.
use like racing games.
I feel like I've seen this game somewhere before.
Play the best free game. on
It has been all over the place recently because of how well it did. Because Construct 2, while it does have a fairly active user base, it isn't as out there as things like Stencil, even though in most ways it seems to be far superior.
I haven't heard that much about Construct 2, other than like.
Yeah, it's
That it
a lot of
exists.
things. A lot of the reasons you haven't heard much about Construct 2 is they don't export to Flash, which is what Stencil does. And Flash is much more supported right now than HTML5. But as things are progressing, HTML5 seems to be getting a lot more speed. And I think Construct 2 will probably take the lead as soon as HTML5 just becomes much more widely accepted. But here is the trailer for Mortarmelon, which is probably the most successful thing I've seen out of Construct 2 thus far.
I think they have
Is
some-
it like Angry Birds?
It is kind of like Angry Birds in its mechanics, yes.
Or
But this was all done without any
that
scripting
looks pretty cool.
or anything like that.
Without scripting?
Without scripting.
That's pretty intense. That's really intense.
And how successful was it?
It's gotten over 250,000 downloads on the Windows 8 store alone, and it hasn't been released on anything else.
And how much?
It is free.
So much gore.
It is free. I just downloaded it. I'm on the. I'm on the.
There is only one world right now, which is a shame because it's actually pretty fun.
This is the goriest game on Windows 8 ever.
Out now. Windows 8.
Windows 8 must
You
be
don't
That's pretty
even-
cool.
It
If
must-
if it exports to HTML5, you
Mhm.
don't really need to be on Windows 8 to play it.
Nope, it does not.
But it's not available on anywhere other than the Windows.
It's not available on anywhere other than Windows 8 because it was published for a competition using Windows 8. And that's
Okay.
pretty
So
much why.
Microsoft probably owns like all the rights to it.
Really?
Possibly.
Has anyone enjoyed the fruits of this labor?
And, and the people who
The wheel will spin.
Maybe.
Of the
I'm sure it's going to be
Because
released
of
for other
that
things as well. He's already said that he's going to release
Oh,
it for other
so the-
things,
so the
but it's
developer-
very unoptimized right now
But the developers
for anything
still-
other than something with a computer processor. It's not optimized for mobile devices yet.
But the developers still.
Yes.
Okay, good.
The developer is very active on the Construct 2 forums about, releasing their game for other platforms, which will probably end up being more than free to play after that, because he's adding multiple worlds and multiple more levels to the game.
See Harvey
Um,
Surgeon Simulator.
Yeah.
Where's my mouse?
Two bloody
So
games.
that game was made with the free version, right?
The game was not made with the free version.
Oh.
There are some limitations with the free version. Some of them being, you have layers. You can only have 4 in the free version,
Oh, that
which
sucks.
is completely unlimited in any of the other versions. Layer is probably one of my favorite features because it's, it's something that's probably widely overlooked because a lot of programs have layers, but the way you can use them in Construct 2 is extremely nice.
It's sort of like Photoshop layers.
It's sort of like Photoshop layers. You can use a lot of the same functions that you would use in Photoshop Forest layers. You can use overlay and blending nodes, different things like that. But also, for parallax, it makes things extremely easy. For parallax in Construct 2, it's as easy as you have your layer, and you set its parallax value and its parallax scale. And it'll scroll side to side for its parallax value. And one of the other nice things is, for its parallax scale, you can actually have scaled parallax mapping. So what happens is, say you zoom into a planet, the stars in the background are not going to get as close as the planet is going to, because they're very far away. So one of the things you could do is have them on a separate parallax layer with a different set of scale. And what would happen is, when you zoom into the planet would zoom very far, and then the stars would not zoom very far at all. And yeah. Windows 8. No.
That's really cool. Because it's like parallax makes your game look really awesome.
I did want to compare some of the things about Stencil and Construct 2. One being my biggest gripe is that Stencil is a subscription-based service. So you have to pay $150 a year to keep publishing games with Stencil and keep updating games that you currently have out. With Construct 2, it's a one price, you pay it, and you're done. And you get all the updates that come out, for free. And I like that model much better. It also already exports to iOS and Android, which Stencil currently does not do, except for in its 3.0 beta, which is not out unless you are already subscribing and paying for it. I just use this one. You're on that, right? Sorry, I'm gonna change the display real quick.
Toss his mouse. Do not toss Sterling
It goes into
Wiltshire.
recycle bin.
He's not taking questions right now.
I'll take questions. If you have a question, ask.
You need to wait your turn.
No, you need
okay?
to keep Cindy, don't
You
be
have a-
That's what
selfish.
you think.
Cindy, don't be selfish.
your
Keep your
question,
question for yourself.
Okay, I was going to ask. So, do you have to renew the license annually?
You do
or-
not.
Okay.
It's one of the things with Stencil. You have an account and you log in, and you're tied to that account. When you buy Construct 2, you get a text file, and you put that text file in your directory, and that's your license. That also causes a lot of problems with piracy for them.
Yeah.
But when you release something, the text file that's bound with Construct is released with it, so they will know if you release something and it's somebody else's license, and the license will get terminated. So don't share your license. It's not a good idea. But
One club license.
the way Construct 2 works is you have your objects, which are your art assets, null objects. So for this example, I have a player object, which is completely invisible. But all the art assets that have to do with the player are basically just parented to it, and they follow it wherever it goes. It makes things a lot easier to work with sometimes, especially when you're dealing with certain events. I have the background and the player camera pinned to the null object, and this is the way Construct 2's event system works. It's when the on system start, the player image is pinned to the player, the null object, and then the player image sets its animation to idle. And if you go back here, you can edit all of your animations, all of your bounding box. That's not good, but okay. Apparently it reset all my collision. Construct 2 has polygon collision, which is actually extremely nice
That is really nice.
because Stencil only has sphere, box, and triangle collision.
They do have polygons.
They do have polygons.
Do
You
they
can
have?
draw
The
them.
last time that I used it, it did not.
Drawing
I don't
the
like-
interface for setting up the polygon is messed up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you figure it out, then it works.
Yeah, this is actually much nicer. You just
If you mess
Yeah.
up,
you click and drag your
have to
polygons. You
all
can
the
delete points on it, etc. I don't know why the polygons all messed up on this one, but
Like auto reset.
yeah, when I opened up the image, it auto reset it, I guess. But as you can see, I actually have all the animations here, and we have the idle, falling animation, a running animation, and a jumping animation.
Was that a concave
Bless you.
Heart surgery, not
corner on the polygon?
No, although
Look
I'm
there.
not right here.
I know. I think Box 3D or something does not allow for concave borders like that, and so I wonder how that works. I guess that physics engine allows it. Whatever.
Doesn't compile with any errors.
Bless you.
Another great.
The nice thing is it's easy. We have live. It's live previewing, and now great.
And now it supports
And now it supports Facebook. Actually, it does support exporting to Facebook, which is nice.
No way. Well, it is if it's HTML5.
Yes, you can pretty much export to the Chrome Web Store, Facebook, anything like that.
Sweet.
Cocoas JS exports to Android and iOS, but it uses their web browser as a back end. So it's basically just HTML5, but it runs a lot faster. So it runs more like a native app, and PhoneGap does the same thing. So that it does not create native applications. It is running them in a web back end. But oh wait, I have the screen now. I don't have to look at that anymore.
People watching the video be like, did that guy just grab a fish head?
What video?
That one. The one on my finger.
Okay, but as you can see, one click of a play. What the heck is going on? Okay, thank you, Construct.
You're losing. That's-
Apparently.
You
This
can't,
has-
you
this
can't
has-
even win at a demonstration.
This has an
I'm just
artistic
closing
message.
everything
The
else.
guy-
Running it on
The
localhost.
guy feels free.
Yeah,
but
you
then
can
he-
run it locally.
he enters
If you
gets a
upload it to
sandwich.
Dropbox or anything like that and share it anybody the link, you can test it that way, and it will run in the browser.
But what I'm interested in is that usually whenever I test a game on the browser, it goes to like a file in my directory. But that's what's running on localhost.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
So basically, they also just added another live previewing feature, which I can't show you because this isn't an actual level. But they added another feature where, say you're building a level that's really huge, you don't want to have to run through the entire level to get to the end where you're editing every time.
Oh,
So you can run to the end one time, and then edit it and keep iteratively editing it until you're happy with it,
Like
and
a
keep
save
testing
point?
it, and it'll keep restarting from the same point that you left off at, which was something they couldn't do before.
is that like how an emulator has like snapshots?
I don't know how they actually do it. They just released it just a few days ago on their blog. Gosh dang.
Because normally I would just move to starting position.
I'll actually show you the video.
But then there are times when you're making a level that you just can't fake it. Unless you like construct
Or
a
if you're
fake
making
level.
something like, Super Meat Boy, and you just can't
Yeah.
get to the end of the level. Oh wait, I don't think this thing's connected to the internet, actually. Well, whatever. No? No, it's connected.
Are you on the IEEE?
Mhm.
Yes, he is.
That's why I'm confused.
It's not working, then you should switch.
Well,
to
whatever.
Wi-Fi.
But this was built probably in 5-10 minutes maybe. Aside from the animation, which I'm very nitpicky about the art side of things. So, but Construct 2's built-in platform behaviors, and I can show you. Basically, I'm going to go back and forth between this and Construct 2 and show you what is actually doing what. So on the start of the layout, you're pinning the player object to the camera. So the camera's going to follow the player wherever it's at. And basically you're saying, you know, for the keyboard functions, on right arrow pressed, you're setting the animation and you're setting the player sprite not to be mirrored. Another nice thing about Construct 2 is the way it handles sprites. A lot of things like Stencil I don't think does this, and they might do it now, but they didn't do it before. Cannot mirror sprites. So if you have a sprite facing one way, you have to have the same sprite facing the opposite way as a separate file.
So Stencil's feature to do that is pretty hidden. You have to like go into the like file.
Yeah,
or
that's
Oh, there's
something.
a button for it.
that's also another nice thing about Construct.
There's a button on the
Is
bottom.
the UI is
There's a
based on a
button to create a
ribbon,
new
just like
one,
Word
not flip.
or Excel or anything else by Microsoft.
I don't know what I'm doing.
It's impossible
Wow,
to
that-
boss fight with Stencil.
But basically, all of these are just setting their animations on what the platform behavior is seeing that you're doing in the game. So if you are falling, it's going to play the falling animation, and et cetera, et cetera. When you land on a platform, it'll start playing the platform animation, jump, idle, running, everything like that. It's very simple. One thing I do have to say though is just setting up these animations takes 8 events. The big, really big limitation with Construct 2, the free edition at least, is you are limited to 100 events. That's about as complex as asteroids. If you're talking, you know, UI, game mechanics, score, everything put together. That's about as complicated as asteroids, and that's cheating some things in here and there as well. Which is probably the biggest limitation that Construct 2 has. I also have a few other things. These aren't set up exactly the way they should be to save memory, as these are gigantic, huge objects, which should just be tiled over and over again. But, as you can see, all of these have a solid behavior, all the grounds. Ooh, I guess I don't. I'm actually going to set up something else right here. If I'm looking at the project and the object types, you can see all your objects listed here, including the keyboard input. I'm going to go ahead and copy the ground 2, so this one here. I'm going to clone it. I'm going to just drag another copy out here. Except this one, I'm going to put a different behavior on. So once you have your object selected, you have a number of things over here. The one you're going to be using most often would be behaviors. And as you can see, it has a solid behavior on it already, but I don't want this one on there. Most of you have played platformer games, I assume.
Yeah.
How many of you know that in some platform games, there are platforms that you can jump through the bottom of them and then land on the top? Construct 2 has a ton of built-in platform behaviors already, and one of them is jump through.
Awesome.
So you can just add your jump through behavior to it, and it will be a solid on the top and a jump through on the bottom. And you can set your layer styles and Z fighting issues. So the character may go behind it, but you can also change that.
Yeah. 'Cause that's super annoying to do in Game Maker.
Yes, it is, which is
Uber
really
annoying.
sad.
It is.
But
I
it's-
think I wrote a function for that.
There's also some animation bugs that I never
It's even
actually
harder
got
than
worked out.
Stencil.
I don't know how to work them out. So if you're
Physics.
moving when you land, you just keep not running. The only other bug I ran into was if you press both movement keys at the same time and then move backwards, it moonwalks, which is kind of cool. That's a feature.
It needs to be used in a puzzle.
I'm actually going to upload this with all the art so you guys can use, all these platforms or
I was
these
gonna ask if
animations
you were
for
gonna
whatever
do
you
that.
want to try. Another cool thing, I'm going to go ahead and add let's say I want to add wall jumping to the game, you know. I could copy ground 3 again. And the only reason I'm copying it this time is because I don't want it to confuse jumping or the wall with the ground. Because if I use the same object, it's going to mess up. Because it's going to be able to basically jump all over the place. I'm going to rename this one.
So why is that stuff under projects tab?
Wait, which one?
Like the little window that you have, there's a projects and layers, and you're in the
Oh, here?
projects view.
This is going to separate out all of your object types, your event sheets, because if you have, each layout is a different level per se, and we only have one layout with this and one event sheet. You can have multiple event sheets for different layouts, etc. And this is just a way to, it will automatically, you know, place folders within your project. That way it can organize things a little better. And it does it all for you, which is nice, because I'm very, very bad with organization.
What I was wondering is, why do they call it projects? Like, it shows the stuff that's in your game, but why is it called project? Is each item called a project itself?
No, this is the entire project, the entire game. This, you're talking about this right here, right?
Yeah. And I'm wondering why did they call the view that, if that's the view that you look at?
Well, it's just everything that's in your project is in there.
Or-
So all your sounds, all your files,
Okay.
everything like that is in there. All your art assets.
Or is it like you can have multiple projects and you
can
see
have
all the
multiple.
assets of all the projects in that view? Oh, okay. I guess I find it a little unintuitive.
Would you have to move like images, let's say a tile sheet, to the objects folder in order to use it, or is there like an import button? Because I can't find it.
You can actually just drag and drop right into the layout. To import objects or anything like that, mostly art objects, because you're not going to be importing scripts or anything like that, because everything's going to be done within the editor. But for anything like art, I'll actually go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and recreate since they built in the car behavior that I used last time when I was on the internet watching the last dev meeting. I'm just going to go ahead and recreate that because it's a behavior that I already have in here now. And I already have the sprites on the desktop. And another nice thing is you can create templates and save them, which is what I did. So, not this one.
What exactly is a template? All
It's
your stuff.
basically just something with crappy art assets, and you know, just basic gameplay so you can replace everything. So the thing that I did
Is it a
did
project
before
in itself?
was, say what?
Is a template basically a project?
It basically is a project. It's a project with everything that you need to begin development of a certain kind of thing. And it comes with a
Okay.
bunch of projects that are already pre-built. At least the new version. That was actually this latest version. And I don't know if it downloads the right version when you download it from their website. Oh, sorry. Because I'm actually going to open a template right now. Oop, no, I'm not. When you start a new project, what now?
This is what's going on.
Construct 2 has not responded.
I guess not.
Construct 2 has been downgraded to Construct 1.
There actually is a Construct Classic, and you can still download it, but it's very, very buggy.
Class?
Classic.
Oh, classic.
Shit. I'll just open a new one.
Construct 0.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe I'm not going to do that.
This is unhappy about having more than one open.
I
So
guess
it
so.
crashes when you start a new project, but if you already have one, then I recommend you download Construct 2 and try it.
Well, actually, I think the window's just
We did
behind
the
it,
first project.
but I'm not
How many
100% sure.
How many instances
If
of
you already have a
Construct do you
Construct 2
open?
project,
I have 3.
recommend
I
you
had
try it
3.
for the first time.
Maybe that's why.
But where is the first one coming from?
Or
The only
you
annoying
start-
thing.
The one you already have.
What about the first one never made?
Oh, go to
They open one.
go to
It's
the
handles all the way down. So
There's one project that opened,
Yep.
and then everybody just used that project.
Are you gonna let me do it now?
You should play a cool sound effect when you close.
Nope. That's enjoyable.
The hell
Um,
is what it says.
That's what I need anyway.
Or murderer. What are you doing?
So this is what I had last time. Oops, where'd it go? Why is there no color?
No, I know you can
Oh.
click it right. I don't want to do that.
This is basically what I had last time. And I'm just going to show you how simple it is to get just basic game mechanics into something. Like, so I have this car sprite, and it doesn't do anything at all. It's just in the layout. And to get it moving around, I actually have a car behavior that I say. Hopefully. Yes. And this is actually going to be very bad when I first start because it's going to be way too fast. Or maybe not. Yes. But you already have a working car, and you can just close and iteratively. You have all your behaviors attributes right on the side here. So I can change the speed, acceleration, deceleration, steer speed, which I'm going to change way higher. Drift, recover, friction, set angle, and default controls. So now I should be able to turn a lot better. But I can still
Centrifugal
drift
acceleration.
super ridiculously.
Super drift.
It's not acceleration at all. It's a lie.
And this is without any events, actually. So we have 0 events, and actually something happened. The events are mostly for game mechanics like keeping score, playing animations, basically the game's rules.
Are behaviors made up of events?
Behaviors are not made up of events. Behaviors are actually JavaScript. And you can add your own behaviors. Maybe I'm connected to the internet now.
If I hacked everything in using behaviors, could I get around the 100 event limit and do everything in behaviors?
There's a lot of things you can do to get around the 100 event behaviors. Like having one event do multiple things, but it can get extremely, extremely complicated and very, very buggy when you do things like that. But as you can see, it is 40% off right now, which is a very good deal considering you only have to pay for it once, which brings it to $70, which is about the price of a retail game anyway. And that allows you to export to Android, iOS, Facebook, Chrome Store, Windows 8, Windows 8 Mobile, just everything under the sun that they have. Which is also one of the things I like about it way better than Game Maker, because Game Maker is now doing their whole modules thing. So they're having it to where you basically buy Game Maker and then you buy a plugin to allow it to export to iOS, and then another one for Android and another one for Windows 8 Mobile.
Buying features out.
Actually,
Yeah.
they actually support Windows 8 for free now.
Windows 8?
Yeah, for free.
Okay, well then they don't support Windows 8 Mobile or any of the other mobile platforms.
Well, they just updated it last week. That's why.
Cool. Everyone's updating.
Right.
I wonder who's behind all this.
North Korea.
Yeah, because communism has not been.
I'm gonna go ahead and just show you guys some of the stuff in the examples folder, as in a particle effects demo, and you can see how well things like particles actually run in HTML5, which is pretty insane, to be honest. Especially on something like this with Intel integrated graphics, particles are not its friend. especially in HTML5. But they have things running very well. I mean, you can see.
This water is great.
I wish we had.
Oh my
Android
gosh,
before.
Shiny.
45 FPS.
But it's like, you know, these are just additive particles. I thought there was something showing how many particles there were. Construct 2 running HTML5 particles, you can usually get around 61,000 of them before the web browser crashes.
It really depends on the browser too.
Yeah, it depends on the browser. They suggest using Chrome because it is the most supportive of HTML5 so far.
And doesn't Chrome have like one of the fastest JavaScript engines anyway?
Yes. But it isn't running JavaScript. It's running Canvas. It exports your projects straight to HTML5 Canvas.
But there's JavaScript underneath.
There's JavaScript. You can edit. There's not Java. Yes, there is JavaScript underneath, but JavaScript is what you use to edit your game's behaviors. You can use JavaScript to edit Construct 2 itself, not your game.
Okay.
You can add, basically you can add functionality to Construct 2 using JavaScript.
I guess I was thinking of how it works underneath because I'm pretty familiar with web
Here's one of the things that I'd like to show you guys. Has anybody ever played Mario Galaxy?
Yes.
No one's played that.
No one's played that? Well,
I played Mario
there's
Universe,
2
it's
events in this entire thing. And they control and allow the player to,
Oh goodness.
Whoa, normal.
HTML5.
yeah, to play on.
only 2 events.
Yeah, I know. There's some great graphics for their demos.
Now fall. Come on, let the 5 fall. Or is it
I think I see how the.
Oh goodness.
You died.
So it's like rotating the screen with respect to the input.
Mhm.
So yeah.
It's there's actually not much going on. It's basically setting the angle toward the sprite of the screen.
Is it like rotating a layer or
Mhm.
something?
It's another one of the things that layers can do in Construct 2 is allow for rotation
That is pretty crazy.
independently. But that's also one of the bad things about the free edition is you only have 4 layers. And that actually is quite sad.
You're right,
I
Charles.
have a question.
Yes.
Are there tutorials? Do they allow? Do they allow for those limitations?
What do you mean?
Like, do they write the tutorials in that
Most
you can do
most
it for the free?
tutorials that are written will be written so that you can do them using, but the tutorials that are up on their site are not written by them. They're written by users. So they could have many things that you couldn't do as well. They just revamped their tutorial section, and it's much, much better now. One of the biggest things they did, though, was just add, all they did was add multiple languages, which was something that wasn't around before. Construct 2 has built-in physics.
I mean, like, oh, that's what I. By multiple languages, you mean real languages, not programming.
Yes, real languages, not programming languages. When you're making a Construct 2 game, the only programming that you
Python.
would have to do or want to do
It's JavaScript.
is your choice, and it's going to be JavaScript, and it's not going to be for your game. It's going to be to extend Construct 2's capabilities.
Yeah.
So basically, you're making plugins for Construct 2. You're not writing your game in JavaScript,
I wanna try
if that
this
makes
out.
sense.
You got 15 minutes left.
And we started really late.
It's like 14 minutes. You're wrong. You're off by 1 minute. It's still an A.
Off by 1 error.
I have a really random question. Have you ever tried using their gamepad feature?
I've not. That's
Because I'm-
one thing. That's one thing What I'm working on right now is getting PhoneGap, which is one of their exporters, or CocosJS to work with the Ouya. Because right now, it's not working because it's not a phone. It exports to Android, but it doesn't understand the input that you're giving it, which is the problem that I'm having right now. But that's also one of the nice things is you should be able to export to the Ouya when it does come out. Um, pathfinding. Well, we'll do particle adjustments. Soft particles are also supported, and still supported very well,
What are
which
soft
is surprising.
Oh,
Particles with alpha, basically,
Okay.
with not just, it's not either black or white, which is what most particles do, because it's very, very expensive to do anything otherwise.
So that.
Yeah, basically that.
You can kind of see where the particles are. And there's some randomness to this side.
There's pretty much only one other thing I wanted to show you guys in here. If I can find it. Or well, two, because they go together. Has anybody here ever wanted to make a
No battery
a
warning.
tower defense game?
Oh, yes.
It's probably one of the easiest things you can make in Construct 2 right now. Pathfinding is extremely simple and built in.
I once helped somebody make a tower defense game in Stencil, and it was a pain.
How was the pathfinding?
Well, it was pretty simple because it was a behavior that says, instead of actually figuring out the path, it was like following a set path that the user put in coordinates for.
Oh, well, see, that's the nice thing about this is you can actually just have a collision box on these objects, and it will find its way around them even if you move them.
So there it's visualizing the path that it's just calculating on the fly.
Actually, it calculates it up front.
It looks like A-star.
Well, it's
So is that A-star pathfinding?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Probably. Most things are.
I mean, I just saw the arrows are like really, they seemed like they were grid-based.
I believe it is grid-based.
Yeah.
But I believe that the grid is not square. I do believe it's actually triangles, so it's more like a mesh.
Oh.
I'm not 100% certain on that, though. I did read something about it recently, though. Gosh. Dang. Oh, God, I hate Windows 8.
Where are the windows?
This is the only laptop that I have. And the other one is automatic turret behavior, which they already have built in.
Cool. Nice.
Which I'm running away from right now, but. And these are all behaviors that are built directly into the game that you can drag and drop, click on it, and add the behavior.
They definitely put a lot more effort into the built-in behaviors than the Stencil team did.
Yeah, but there's actually not very many of them. The thing is, when you add a behavior to something, like I had this one here, like the platform one, you can add an event, and when you choose the player, it'll bring up all the events that actually have to do with the platform behavior itself. So the platform or the behaviors actually have events that have to do with them specifically. So for animation triggers, you have on fall, on landed, stopped, jumped, or moved, and then you have different things you can compare speed, see if it's on the floor, if it's jumping, if it's by a wall, which is actually how you do wall jumping. You check and see if it's next to a wall, and then you can jump. But I actually didn't want to go into too much how to use Construct, more just some of the nice features of Construct and how they compare to other things that are similar. Because actually I am working on Construct tutorials right now, which I'll show you guys the introduction video to, which actually isn't done.
You need a key for your laptop. Is that where you put your
No, I just have.
Access granted.
I've got
I just have it in here.
Take that keys.
So these are all actual games that are use Construct 2, which some of them you might actually.
Oh, you're making video tutorials.
Yes, I am. I'm making
That's
video
a lot of
tutorials.
experience.
This one
That's a really
here.
cool looking game.
Where
Sounds like Okami.
No, yeah, that too.
It looks
just
beautiful.
raised like $300,000 on Kickstarter.
Wow.
Which one?
This one here.
Missing Delta.
That's not actually what it's called. I can't remember
I'm
what it's
just
called, to be
reading.
honest. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But these are all actually examples of games that are built with it as well.
Right?
This one was successfully funded. The one before this, the company actually went bankrupt because they didn't make enough money because they didn't finish the game. And basically, it's becoming much better very rapidly now that they've been on Steam Greenlight and people are actually seeing what it can do. And I really think you guys should check it out, especially now that it's 40% off.
And now that it's summer starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can make some money off of it too. You spend that $71 and you can release something on iOS and you can release something on Android absolutely free after you spend that $71, and you can monetize it up to $5,000 before they'll want you to buy the professional license. So it's like, there's no real reason not to as long as you have that initial investment. Because I know that a lot of you here actually have good game ideas.
We could
But-
try to raise money for
Yeah, that's what I was
business
gonna say.
edition.
For
It'll be
upgrade.
like $20 for each person.
We
But
could also install
if we
it.
have 12 people,
For the
then that's a
organization.
business license
Well-
for the organization.
But the personal license, it would probably be better to just get the personal license at that point anyway, because if nobody ever does anything with the business license, then there's no point in having it because they have the exact same limitations.
Well, the individual person still pays less because if you, unless like the club gets a personal license, but that doesn't.
See, I actually already have a personal license. The day that I left for the game jam, it was
So-
because my dad had to go up to Flagstaff to buy a car because he fixes old cars, and he ended up making like $4,000 off of it, and he wouldn't have been able to go if I didn't leave. So in return, he bought me a license for Construct 2.
Sweet.
But
And that turned out to be a really awesome present.
yeah.
Mm,
Are there any questions? Because I know that it was kind of, I just wanted to go over most of the nice features because I actually am making a tutorial series. So if you want to know more about it, you can easily just watch those because they're going to be much more structured. But do you guys have any questions?
We should do a workshop next year.
yeah, honestly, if people are interested in getting a Glove Business Edition account, because getting a personal edition account, if it's the same limitations, even if it's just one person using it,
I would
he
like
would
to,
only have paid like $20.
I would just like to play more around with it and then decide.
Yeah, definitely play around with the
But
free version,
it's only
especially
on
while
sale
it's
for a week.
40% off.
It'll be on sale for like 40% off.
Probably.
Because this is the first time it's been on sale for like a couple years,
Oh.
which is why I was like, yes, perfect timing.
Yeah.
But because once it went on Steam, they said they weren't going to plan on having it on sale for a long time. And here it is a month later and it's on sale for 40% off, which is also the steepest discount that I've seen it for. Because even when they were in their pre-development, or not their pre-development phase, but their alpha phase, before it actually released, they were asking $100 for it, and you're now spending $30 less than that. So there's no real reason not to. Oh, and by the way, this is the game that I was working on with you, with that sprite.
Ooh,
Nice. That looks really cute.
I want to play that.
Gives a GTA initial vibe.
It
Yeah.
has
I like.
racing game plot boiling inside.
Did anybody have any questions about Construct 2 though?
You
Yeah,
want
I
to
have
do
to
a
try it
workshop?
Mm,
I want to show off that.
yes,
Yeah, I just wanna
yes,
show off-
and no.
You have 4
There are
minutes.
plugins that support 3D right now, but that's because it does use HTML5. It has WebGL support.
I'll have to leave.
Just want to show. This presentation is called "What I Spent 2 hours on this morning when I should have been doing homework."
Homework's
I've done that
overrated.
before.
So,
Best title ever.
Moonbase Alpha.
What is it? What?
Moonbase.
Moonbase Alpha is a free game. You can get it on Steam. It's been out for almost 3 years. It was a proof of concept for a NASA MMO. It's designed to be like educational and get people excited about space. And this would be the idea is to just like have like a problem where you need to fix your base on the moon so that everyone doesn't die of suffocation, basically. It's a very simple game. It's built on the Unreal 3 engine, and it's designed to be accessible by like 8-year-olds. So pretty much all you do is walk around welding things. There's a little more to it, but this is the main. This is where most of the action is at. You could this guy has 8.2 seconds to like drag their mouse on the red lines without crossing the green lines. Unreal 3 has a text-to-speech feature, so and that's an option in Moonbase Alpha. And so Moonbase Alpha is mostly famous for things like this.
That's realistic.
Turn the volume up.
Awesome.
Where's the volume?
No,
All the
yeah.
way on the other side.
Right there.
I wish real life had
Just
this.
just cue music was added for the video.
So the user is typing stuff in.
Okay, well, so that's what the game is mostly famous for, and that's what people mostly do when they're playing it. People have figured out all kinds of stuff about the Unreal 3 text-to-speech engine and figured out all kinds of weird ways to make the guy sing, change the voice, just make the absolute most insane, ridiculous sounds. But there is actually a game that you could play.
So it wasn't actually a game?
So here I've got single player no fail mode on, and I want to weld. I'm holding the welder right now, and here's a coupler. And so the idea is I'm going to weld this. And every so often this comes up, and I crossed the line. It's hard with a trick. So every time you succeed, the difficulty level goes up by 1, which means you have 1 additional track, and you'll cut more time if you succeed. Every time you fail, the difficulty level goes down, and you have 1 fewer to do. And I crossed. Okay. So what I decided to do this morning was to create an auto hotkey script to cheat at this game. The welding screen is identical every single time. So what I did this morning is I plotted out the screen space for the maximum resolution for this game, which is 1024 by 768. And every single like vertex of these, I stuck into an auto hotkey array, basically a bunch of arrays. So the script looks like this. Here's all my arrays, X and Y values.
So what is auto hotkey for people?
Auto hotkey is a program for Windows that lets you set up macros to input using the keyboard and the mouse. So the idea is like you could have just a button like J. You could say J will toggle a mode where it just clicks the mouse ridiculously fast. So you tap J and it will send to Windows a bunch of mouse clicks really, really fast until you hit J again. And so it acts as a barrier between your physical input and the input that Windows and all of the programs you're running receives, where it can capture things and send things. And so I set up where every time I press F1, it will find the closest path. Basically, I just move near one of the endpoints and hit F1, and then it'll draw that one for me. So I have it running right now, and so as you can see, it's very difficult to play this game on a laptop. I was not having a lot of success drawing those. Furthermore, the difficulty gets really, really high. Once you get to like level 8, even if you're really hardcore, it's almost impossible to do it in the time limit. But I can just like do that and I'm done.
And so you just click on it and it figures out
I
which
just
one
moved
you
to
need.
one of the endpoints, hit F1, and it'll draw that one, and draws that one. And it's still a little bit buggy, it's a little finicky, but I had to go to class today, so I had to stop. But
Pretty awesome.
there are online leaderboards for this game, and I expect that the people at the top probably do things like this, because they get really amazing times. So this is how you cheated a video game. See, that one's not. Oh, I won. So that's my 7-minute presentation on what I
Watching.
did this morning instead of doing homework.
Do not teach kids this idea, please. Or should we?
Cheaters always win.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, look at leaderboards. It's true.
So that's Moonbase Alpha. It's free. You can play around with it and have fun with it.
What
If you
the
just
text
join
is
some
it?
server, make sure your speakers are kind of low before you join. Because you can very often end up, well, people, they will do all sorts of things.
Enough said.
Yeah.
This is the internet.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah,
say.
it's kind of like if you gave 4chan a text-to-speech into.
On the moon.
That sounds
like a
terrible idea.
Yeah. So it's basically like if 4chan's random board got Moonbase.
There's probably a server with that name.
Oh God.
4chan.
4chan.
Moonbase.
Well, at any given moment, there's only like 20 or 30 people playing because it hasn't really been developed for 3 years.
All
But-
4chan Moonbase belong to us.
Yeah, so you can check out Moonbase Alpha if you actually want to play it, but I don't know. I was just showing off, like, I am actually working on stuff sometimes. I was free for a couple hours this morning, and
I mean, you should have been doing homework.
So, yeah, so,
The more
actually,
you see,
to make this a little more relevant to game development, I should talk a little bit about the development process. So my first idea was, each of these paths was going to be mapped to a key press. This would be like numpad 7, 8,
Yeah,
9.
that would have been my first idea.
But these are like, I kept trying to figure out where on the keyboard I could map these where I would actually remember them, because they're not like
Yeah.
in a nice grid or anything, and it was really trying to figure out like I could partition it somehow and have one section of the keyboard be top and and it just wasn't working out. And so that's when I hit upon the idea of like, well, if I'm doing this, I already know the locations of the endpoints and each of these little corners. Because the idea is it just draws straight lines between points. So AutoHotkey can actually get the location of the mouse cursor, so I'm like, well, instead of having to memorize all these buttons, I can just move the mouse cursor to near to one of these points and start it, and it'll just look at every single endpoint and corner and find the closest one. That's not too hard to do with math, it's just Pythagorean theorem. You take the x and y distances, square them, and add them together and take the square root. And you get the distance. And so the shortest distance is like, okay, we're gonna use that one. That is part of path 3. I numbered them all. I have Photoshop open at home where I just like downloaded this, opened it in Photoshop, and like just put white numbers on all these. So that's path 3, and it's like, okay, play path 3, so it moves it. Even if I start it over here, it just moves it to the first one in the list, the first point in path 3, which is this, and then the second one. And it knows that there's only 2 points in path 3, so it just stops. So, I don't know, I guess that's sort of relevant to problem solving, where, you come up with an idea, and if it's just intractable, sometimes you redesign like how it's gonna work.
So it doesn't matter which endpoint you actually start the mouse cursor at, is it?
No, and you can also start in the middle, because like the joints, the corners in the middle are also in the list, and it looks at those too. So if you move near one of those, it will also use that one. This is what I used for actually mapping out the screen space for like where the points are. I had it so that when I hit F2, it adds the X and Y to a text box on my desktop. And so I would just like move the mouse around, like F2, 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 okay, there's that path. Open up the file, and there's my X and Y coordinates, and I stuck them in here.
I would have just like wasted a ton of time in Photoshop.
Yeah, I thought about like if I could like take one corner and the other corner and then figure it out, but this turned out to not take too long because there's only 15 paths, and I couldn't get a screenshot for some reason. And you know, I went on the internet and like this is like scaled. I don't know if that's the same scaling as my screen. So, you know, I'm running at 1024 by 768. I guess I could have checked what this was, but I'm not gonna hunt down some correct screenshot. I couldn't take one myself, so I just moved it around. I just hit like F2, 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 and then I moved over here and hit F2 a few times to like create a break. So if I see a one number over and over again, it's like, okay, start the next F2, 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 F2. So it's how I got a big text file full of coordinates and then I converted. And so that's what I spent 2 hours this morning. And I'll probably spend another 10, 20 minutes fiddling with it, making it a little more bug-free. Because it doesn't
faster.
Yeah.
So
And
that
then releasing it on the internet.
And everyone will feel great on the leaderboard.
Well, yeah,
and
yeah,
accomplish
yeah,
nothing
because you know
else.
the Moonbase Alpha community is really hardcore. They're really about how can we repair this Moonbase as quickly as possible.
Hardcore. That sounds
The,
very dirty.
I'll just pick another random video. Oh, the audio track has been muted. You're kidding me.
oh, must not have been a good track.
What's the claim by?
Copyright holder.
Well, of course, but
Some random guy's like, hey, that's my voice. Copyright.
If it was Harlem Shake,
You recognize my
the world
voice.
would not be crying. It would in fact be rejoicing. Daily life of an answer.
There's no good reason to use the roller, really. Actually, wait, I think there is now. Yeah, they added a feature where you can load things up. You need it. It's not really worth it unless you request it. So that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's featuring.